mare's hurdle, which it's a bit of a head scratcher at this stage, and unfortunately it's going to be a head scratcher pretty much up until the Sunday. I know Gordon Elliott has said that they'll let everyone know the week before, but we're still going to have to wait 10 more days plus to find out where Brighter Days Ahead does go. And then with Lossiemouth as well, it's been sort of a 2-year plan in the making for her to go to a champion hurdle. So you'd be hard pressed to imagine that she doesn't go to the champion hurdle. But then if Brighter Days Ahead doesn't come here, will they toy with it? I don't know if they will. I don't think they will. Anyway, a lot obviously depends on who turns up with these two. I think probably the safest option to say is that Brighter Days Ahead of the two is the most likely to come here, even though the exchanges have been a little bit back and forth with her. But there's never been significant enough movements in there in any way, shape or form to suggest that a decision has been made with Brighter Days Ahead, in my opinion. I do think she's phenomenal at 2 miles. I do feel like she's got some questions to answer, even on her season's form this year, to suggest whether she can actually really quantify being rated quite as high as she is. I think she's pushing a 160s mare. And I think the logical, sensible approach of her, much like they did with Lossiemouth last year, is you take in the races in the right order. And I feel like this would be the best race and the right race for her to come in a mare's hurdle. If she comes here, she should be slamming these lot. I wonder whether they'll get worried about the record of all these top-rated mares that have not won here, all these short-price favourites that haven't got it done here, because it's always been a race that just seems to throw up a little bit of a shock, even though we've had some good horses. Long gone are the days of just backing Quevega every year, Will. It was much easier back then, wasn't it? But that's where I'm a bit stuck with this one, because I do like to get stuck into some of the short ones in this, even if it was like Annie Power when she fell, or Benny DeGee when they fell. But you need to get into those ones early enough in the season, really, and the value does seem to go by the day. There might be some promotional offers, but Brighter Days Ahead, if she comes there, isn't going to be a sort of backable price. You might want to stick her in multis, but she'll be so short in those prices. I probably would even advise against that. When you start to look at the competition down a bit further below, though, it's hard to know when the time to strike is on those, because if of course Brighter Days Ahead and Lossiemouth don't come here, some of these are going to be really short, and the bookmakers have priced defensively. In a world where everything happens for the right reasons and Brighter Days Ahead and Lossiemouth go ahead against each other, then betting anything against them two is stupid, because they can't both not win. I mean, they obviously could. But from like a profiling thing, the only horses that would be ones at big prices that would interest me slightly, if it's for place pot purposes, or maybe looking to do some each way multiples, or on the day if we get a chance to get a price, is Take No Chances for Dan Skelton. Real good form this season, has done it on all different types of ground. Trip may be a little bit of a question, but has got the right sort of profile of being the surprise winner that isn't so much of a surprise after. 12 to 1 about that one's too skinny for me though. And Jatara as well for Jessie Harrington. I was pretty impressed with what she did last time. I know Katira maybe doesn't always put it in the finish, but Jatara was unruly before the race as well. Put the cheek pieces on her now, and at the start of the season they were saying that she was showing signs of being in season. She's one of these horses that I will always make excuses for, and I'll have to stop at some point, but probably have to wait till she retires. But she's always looked like a horse that could be right out of the top drawer, but she's always seemed to show reasons why she's not been able to do it. And I wonder whether this year, I know she was in season, but they've managed to get plenty of runs into her. I wonder whether this is the type of year where she's going to be able to run somewhere near the top of her form. And I think she's pushing a 150s horse on her day. So she's 20 to 1. Whether she comes to this race or not, I don't know. They dodged the Mares Novice Hurdle a couple of years ago because they wanted it to be bad ground. But I don't know. They'll be the only two that are on my radar against them. But look, if Brighter Days Ahead comes here, she wins. Lossiemouth comes here, she wins. If both of them come here, then this is going to be one of the greatest races of all time for the mares to clash. But how do you see it, Will? Is there an in at this moment? And do you think you can work out who would win the race, regardless of who runs?
I think the one thing I can categorically say is they both won't come here. There's no way, surely no way that both of them come here. Anyway, if they do, I'll eat my hat. I think if I were connections of both, I mean, Brighter Days Ahead, I get the feeling that they're edging towards champion hurdle with her. Because why not have a crack? She's so good. Yeah, you got to have a crack at it. Lossiemouth, like you said, it's been a 2-year plan to get her here. But if it has been a 2-year plan, why have you entered her in the Mares Hurdle? It's it's a bit unfathomable, this race for me at this stage, because of the potential for switches and who goes where, etc., etc. If they didn't both go here, Jade de Grugy is going to go off favourite, isn't she? And I don't know. I wasn't that taken by her yesterday at Punchestown. She's won and she's won nicely, but the time of her race compares pretty badly in comparison with William Money. Now, it might be that William Money goes and proves himself to be a supreme winner. So time might tell that actually that wasn't too bad to compare, badly to that. But I wasn't, wasn't overly taken by Jade de Grugy. So I'd probably look to take her on as a market leader if she was the market leader. And then you're looking at, I guess, the likes of July Flower, Calaconte, Cargesi, but a few of those have got handicap options. I think Calaconte has been mooted for handicaps. Cargesi has a county hurdle entry. So of those at bigger prices, Lantry Lady would certainly pique a bit of interest. She was fourth in the race last year, coming from further back in the field than the first three ahead of her. Now she's had one run this season over fences where she didn't jump well. Presumably they've scrapped that idea and they thought, well, let's try and get her fresh and go back to the Mayor's Hurdle with her. She's quite ground dependent, I think, so she'd want it soft ground, but she might be one at a price that could just start to bubble under in the next few weeks, really, when people pick apart this race and realise that it might fall apart significantly. And she's on her fourth last year. She might represent the strongest piece of form once we come to Dex time. So she's an interesting option, definitely at this stage.
It's crazy, isn't it? Because this is the race where we've mentioned so many horses in it, and it could just come back to it in a couple of weeks' time where it's just like, well, it's obvious now because Brighter Days Ahead comes in for whatever reason and it's game over. But there is a world where neither of them come, isn't there? And that's where the market's sort of priced up. So this will be one very much, I think, not many people will be taking their chance now. They would have done earlier in the season.